On episode 41 of Confessions of a Marketer, we're talking turning data into stories. We have Bill Burkart, president of Wunderman Data Management, in to discuss turning data into stories. We'll get to that in just a moment. Next time, we'll have part 2 of my chat with Bill, where we delve into real-world examples of companies using data to tell stories, and we'll take a look ahead at the future of data. Coming soon, we have Jeremy Goldman discussing the future of marketing. SuperUnion's Chief Creative Officer, Greg Quinton, will join us to discuss great design and more. And we will be joined by Beth Monahan of Inkhouse to discuss fear and the future of PR. And as I mentioned last time, I've got a new podcast I've been cooking up with influencer and investor Garnett Harriman, the Innovation Podcast. We've got a couple of new episodes available with interviews from Garnett's trip to CES. You can subscribe pretty much everywhere you get podcasts and listen at the iPod.fireside.fm. We've got a custom domain coming soon, so I'll let you know when that happens. On to Bill Burkart. I've spoken with his Wunderman colleague Jacques van Niekerk a couple of times, and those chats have been great and among our most popular. With Bill, I was intrigued by the idea of turning data into stories. In this first part of our discussion, we talk about how data can serve as the foundation for a good story. Hope you enjoy the chat. Let's get to it. Bill Burkart, it's great to have you here on Confessions of a Marketer. Welcome.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
Good.
You're in Omaha, Nebraska, where it was, 7 degrees this morning?
7 degrees. Yeah. Beautiful Omaha, Nebraska. Going to visit one of our wonderful clients, Mutual of Omaha.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm often asked, where are they headquartered? I said, just think of the name. Yeah. You'll have your answer. So wonderful clients, long-time clients.
That's great. Boy, that name for someone of my age makes me hearken back to Marlon Perkins in the 1970s on A Wild Kingdom.
Exactly right. And it is still throughout that organization something that's of fond memory and often discussed. Bringing back, things like grandson of Marlon or something. But
Yeah. So we're here to talk about data and turning data into stories. So data is often characterized just as numbers, the things we all see on spreadsheets. But I think it can really form the underpinning for great stories because there's often so much hidden behind those numbers. So how do you take data and build great stories?
I think one analogy I'd like to use is data is, the queen died and then the king died. The story is the queen died and then the king died of a broken heart. That's the story.
Right.
So translating from data, or what essentially is a kind of a fact, into a narrative is the mission that certainly we are all on for our marketing clients. What's happened in recent years is the amount of data has grown exponentially, and that growth is a function of all the new devices that actually generate data. And so marketers have this dilemma of having an extraordinary amount of data being generated and determining the best way to kind of synthesize that to enable a story to begin with understanding the audience or with whom you're presenting the story. And that gets back to this concept of personalization. And personalization is not an end game. Personalization is a means to an end. And that end is having a clear understanding of with whom you're speaking. And once you determine that, then the concept of telling a story is easier. If not, you're pretty much in a position of broadcasting a set of irrelevant facts. So we put our shoulder is first of all helping clients synthesize all of their data sources. And let me just talk about kind of one aspect of that. And that is that part of this proliferation of data has been around digital data or data derived from device IDs and cookie data. And our clients today and we, along with our clients, recognize the huge value of our clients' customer data. their first-party data, people that they know, people that have done business with them, and consequently helping our clients synthesize the data with respect to their customers so that they can have a one-to-one conversation with a customer of theirs is our focus. So not to say that the digital data being created is not of value. It is of value. But what is more valuable is the people with whom you do business. We have an adage that we call the first dollar concept, is that if you have $1 to spend in marketing, spend it with your customer to get them to buy one more thing, opposed to spending on a prospect to perhaps get them to buy like one more thing. And so consequently, if you get this environment where you're ready to have that conversation, then we have to look at the main components of a story. And stories can take a variety of different venues, if you will. And a venue, when we think about stories, it could be a movie theater, it could be a theater, it could be but it could be also be an email.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you're thinking about an email, you actually have an opportunity with a viewer to see an entire story unfold within the content of a particular email. So I think synthesis of data translating into a way in which you know who your customer is and what matters to them, both on what you know about them, as well as the data that we can use to enrich what you might know about them. I take an example from some years ago with Sephora. Sephora, they have, I actually don't recall how many SKUs they have, but it's millions.
A lot, yeah, a lot, I would imagine.
Right?
Yeah.
I think about every SKU. It could be it's various shades of a particular lipstick brand, and it's pretty extraordinary. But they have developed and used very sophisticated models to predict if you buy one thing, what you're next most logically to buy. And so part of your thank you email that you get to say thanks for buying, they tee up an opportunity for you to buy the things that people like you have bought next. So the story is around, wow, you complete my look. My look might have begun with a particular lipstick, but you can complete my look by telling me all the other aspects of makeup that could actually make a kind of a comprehensive, kind of attractive outcome. So I think that's an example of kind of telling a story based on what a customer might have done and the data points they've left behind.
It's like a very granular persona. We do a lot of persona work in our business, and usually you end up with 3 or 4 or 5 personas for a business. But this is, in the case of Sephora, it could be millions of personas. Oh, absolutely. One of our current clients is Air Canada, and weekly we send a particular email. It's called the Deal of the Week. Yeah. Which essentially is to convey to 4 million people the deal that's probably right for them. But that email has about 175,000 different versions of it. And for example, it's delivered to you with content that's relevant based on your travel history, with where you like to sit on the plane, with where you like to go, where you've gone on vacation for leisure, where you've gone for business. And it also takes into consideration that, a deal today to fly to Winnipeg, maybe not, because Winnipeg might be closed because of a snowstorm. Yeah. And so we have to actually contain all of those data points to deliver not to a persona. A persona would be leisure travelers, the business traveler, but this really explodes that persona into 175,000 different points of who a person is and what matters to them. Very powerful tool.
Yeah, this concept of a tool that you referred to, our experience has been there are many tools, and
sure.
There's been a proliferation of data. There's been a proliferation of tools. There are hundreds of thousands of tools, and you've seen all the charts that depict those in a Lumascape or other consultants' views of all the tools. But the way we think about it, and where Wunderman plays an important role for our clients, is that we function as the carpenter.
Right.
and that utilizes tools, appropriately. So we're not there to sell hammers and nails, but you know what? We need lumber, hammers, and nails, but we also need an architecture that what we're seeking to build, and that's what we do. That's our job. Our job is to utilize those tools and make them work on behalf of a client.
Right.
I think there are lots of stories of tools that have been purchased and kind of gather, call it digital dust, within an organization's IT groups.
Yeah.
Our job is to make them work and be productive.
Or bring a company to its knees, right? Stop it in its tracks.
Right.
I've been there.
Exactly. Exactly.
So often, some of the best journalism comes from using data to tell stories, whether you open up the paper and it's demographic shifts, environmental impact, or, some other kind of societal impact. I think data journalism has come a long way in recent years. Can companies employ those same techniques to present their data? In
terms of a journalism, the lead, what's the lead?
Yeah.
And when you think about it, a story has a protagonist and an antagonist and a conflict. And so when we think about a particular mission for a client, what is that? We might say that if it's for a travel company, the antagonist might be difficulty in getting from point A to point B comfortably.
Yeah. That's
the antagonist. That's the enemy. The protagonist is a new, easy way by a comfortable way to get from point A to point B. So that's the hero. And the conflict is, how do we resolve those two? And the resolution becomes the story. Is it about money? Is it about service? Is it about purchasing convenience? And that becomes more the resolution of the story. But I think this concept of what's the headline,
mm-hmm.
what falls above the fold is the same application, whether it's a web site, a mobile app, a email, a YouTube short video content. All of it kind of requires an ability to have the headline that matters, and then the first two sentences or the first sentence has to actually lay out the protagonist, antagonist, and the conflict and a resolution.
The inverted pyramid.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And again, I've had so much work in the email channel over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and emails have had a tendency to get longer and longer and longer. If you've ever noticed that, when you begin to move your way down all the way to the bottom of the email, it's almost like a CVS coupon with all the a CVS receipt that you get, right?
Yeah.
That you could becomes kind of a toga as you leave. Leave.
Right. You buy a pack of gum and the receipt is 1.5 yards long.
Right. And so. But then when you kind of think about it, my job as a CVS customer is to figure out where's the thing for me. So you kind of are searching around and like, well, geez, where's my coupon that is the thing I like to buy? The same thing with respect to an email communication. If I go back to the Air Canada example, can you imagine an email that says, here are the flights we have this week where there are deals? And we have a complete list of those flights.
You're on your own.
It would be, right?
Yeah.
You figure it out, but the fact is they have and what we deliver for them on their behalf is the ability to synthesize that and deliver it such that it makes sense,
mm-hmm.
that you give the consumer a chance to have an easier decision-making process and an easier way to actually buy. And it's a funny thing. It works. I think they would probably refer to that deal of the week to be their money generator of the week, but it's been a very successful undertaking for them.
Thanks to Bill for being here. Next time we'll have part 2 of my chat with Bill, where we delve into real-world examples of companies using data to tell stories, and we'll also take a look ahead at the future of data. So stay tuned. This episode of Confessions of a Marketer was written, produced, and edited by yours truly. T. Jordan of A-Class Productions wrote the theme music. Confessions of a Marketer is a trademark of Reed Edwards Global Inc., and this episode is copyright 2019. I'm Mark Reed Edwards. See you next time.